on CBX. Your region, your business, your source.
Hi, I'm Stephen Whittingham, Chairman of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and you're watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
The time by Carrie Chris is 6 p.m. Time for CBX Business News. The Business News Headlines is brought to you by CBX Wealth Management, making more possible.
And the city clears its Russia exit. Good evening and welcome to CBX Business News for Wednesday, November 12, 2025. I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for joining us. Coming up in the newscast, locally, government approves $400 million withdrawal for bauxite communities. Opposition presses for greater accountability. On the regional front, Cayman's opposition warns that the 2026 to 2027 budget could burden businesses with higher fees and push public debt to record levels. And over on the global stage, Citigroup gets Kremlin approval to sell its Russian subsidiary to Renaissance Capital, ending years of negotiations to exit the market. Stay tuned as we unpack these stories and more right after the break.
Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the CBX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why CBX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
Okay, I just sent the money. I'll WhatsApp you the tracking number.
Thanks, Daddy. I can't wait to buy that PS5.
Listen to me. Your birthday money is not just for spending. Remember what I told your mom? Remember to open the bank account immediately after collecting the money. Your mom has her ID, TRN, proof of address, proof of income, and your school ID.
I'm not an adult yet, so Mommy will have to open the account with me.
Yes. Anyways, I'm headed back to work, so call me later. I love you guys.
This financial literacy tip is brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, promoting financial inclusion. For more information, visit our BOJ Real Talk playlist on our YouTube channel.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with a major funding push for Jamaica's mining sector. The government has approved a Jamaican $400 million withdrawal from the Capital Development Fund to finance Phase 8 of the Bauxite Community Development Program. The move signals renewed investment in rural infrastructure and livelihoods, even as the bauxite industry comes under increasing scrutiny over its environmental and social impact. During Tuesday's parliamentary session, Finance Minister Favour Williams tabled the Bauxite Production Levy Capital Development Fund Withdrawal Order 2025, authorizing the Jamaica Bauxite Institute, JBI, to implement the new phase of the program over 2025 to 2028.
In keeping with the provisions of the Act, a withdrawal order and resolution was drafted by the Office of Parliamentary Counsel to facilitate the withdrawal of $400 million from the Capital Development Fund for the purposes of implementing Phase 8 of the Bauxite Community Development Program. The Capital Development Fund currently has sufficient resources to facilitate the withdrawal of $400 million during the 2025-26 financial year.
That was Finance Minister Favour Williams. The announcement, however, drew sharp criticism from opposition members of Parliament who argued that communities across Jamaica's bauxite belts have seen little benefit from decades of extraction and are still grappling with open pits, dust, and derelict landscapes in their constituencies. In response, Mining Minister Floyd Green outlined a tougher regulatory stance, promising zero-tolerance enforcement on unclaimed lands.
The reality is that bauxite and mining in general is still important, but I do agree that there are some things that have happened in the past that we have to put a stop to. So as Minister of Mining, I have said that the mining companies are to, that the Commissioner of Mines is to take a zero-tolerance approach in relation to the rehabilitation of pits, so that there is no new pit added to the backlog, and that we are to start urgently treating with the fees that are to be collected in relation to the backlog, and to ensure that the companies treat with the backlog of pits. One company at least has started that process, and we have sent out letters. The Commissioner has sent out letters, and that is my clear position.
That was Mining Minister Floyd Green. The government is turning to the Development Bank of Jamaica, DBJ, to design new loan facilities for farmers reeling from Hurricane Melissa's destruction, even as commercial banks are yet to commit to sector-wide relief. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green confirmed during Tuesday's parliamentary sitting that talks have begun with the DBJ to establish loan-type arrangements aimed at helping farmers restart production and replace lost assets. However, he stopped short of announcing any agreement with commercial banks to defer payments or restructure existing farm loans.
In the support I announced, there's $30 million already for agrochemical support. St. Catherine Northwest is not here, but we've started the discussion with the DBJ in relation to those loan-type arrangements and whether the DBJ can help. So we will continue on that.
That was Agriculture Minister Floyd Green. In a targeted effort to restore the electricity backbone of Western Jamaica, the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, has announced an ambitious 2-week time frame to restore full power service in the parishes of Hanover and Westmoreland, areas severely battered by Hurricane Melissa. In a post-hurricane update on Tuesday, JPS President and CEO Hugh Grant notes that restoration in Western Jamaica is not a simple case of repair, but a full redesign and rebuild of sections of the power network destroyed by landslides and flooding.
Our strategy is to first restore critical services like hospitals and water pumps and town centers in these key economic zones. Within the next 2 weeks, power will be in Hanover and Westmoreland.
He says the parish of Trelawney is expected back on the grid by the end of this week.
I heard Minister Mackenzie refer to what he's seen in Falmouth and Trelawney. Minister Mackenzie, this week, power will be in Trelawney. We will have power in Falmouth Town, Falmouth Hospital, and also the pier, whereby we're supporting the return of cruise ships to that particular pier.
That was President and CEO of JPS, Hugh Grant. In other news, Cygnus Real Estate Finance Limited has posted a major turnaround in its latest financial year, delivering a strong profit on the back of property pre-valuations and joint venture gains. The company reported a Jamaican $787 million profit for the year ended August 31, 2025, more than double last year's performance, driven by a $1.08 billion fair value gain from its investment properties. Total assets rose to Jamaican $17 billion, while joint venture income climbed to Jamaican $749 million. However, the results were tempered by higher interest expenses of $604 million and fair value losses of $432 million on financial instruments. Still, earnings per share surged to Jamaican $2.34, up from 96 cents last year. We go now to updates from the Bank of Jamaica on how the currency markets traded today. In Wednesday's currency trading session, the US dollar is selling for $161.23, the Canadian for $115.53, the pound sterling for $212.36, while $189.28 is the going rate for the euro. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. In Wednesday's trading session, the JSE market activity resulted in the trading of 99 stocks, of which 44 advanced, 33 declined, and 22 traded firm. Leading the winners are Knutsford Express Services, 138 Student Living Jamaica, the Limnas and Bards, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica. While leading the losers are 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, Jamaica Public Service Company 7%, Innovative Energy Group, and Cygnus Credit Investments JMD ordinary shares. The main index declined by 1,762.27 points, or 0.56%, to close at 312,212.45 points. The junior market index advanced by 44.84 points, or 1.35%, to close at 3,373.95 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we're looking at the term foreign aid. Foreign aid refers to the financial or material assistance that one country provides to another, often in the form of gifts, grants, or loans. This support can include money, food, equipment, or services such as humanitarian or military aid. Typically, foreign aid flows from wealthier nations to developing countries to help address disasters. Aid can also come from non-governmental organizations, faith-based groups, and private foundations, and may be offered through agreements that provide relief, support reconstruction, or strengthen diplomatic ties.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CariCris, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Diamond Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances tease the senses and pulse investments.
Vesco started from 5 shareholders who believed that they could execute a fuel company as good as or as better than any multinational. The director shareholders always believed that the dealers within our network should be owners of the company. They believe that staff should be owners of the company. And specifically also believe that the public should become shareholders. That cannot be facilitated by a bank loan. Our experience so far has translated into additional customers. Our transparency has allowed us to access credit easier and at better rates. So if you're a private company thinking about growing your profits, having better access to capital, I really think you should consider listing on the junior or the main market. Go ahead, have that conversation as soon as possible. We did it and we're very happy.
Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean Dreams, instant turmeric tea. Distributed by Amalgamated Distributors Limited.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. The government of the Cayman Islands 2026 to 2027 budget has come under fire from the opposition, who warns that new revenue measures and record borrowing will raise the cost of doing business in the country. The 2-year spending plan projects 172 million Cayman Island dollars in additional revenue from higher financial services fees, stamp duties on high-value property sales, and new immigration and licensing charges. Opening the debate in Parliament on Tuesday, opposition Member of Parliament for Georgetown East, Roy McTaggart, says the government has failed to disclose the scale of the increases, leaving businesses uncertain about how much more they'll be asked to pay.
The government proposes raising $72.5 million in new revenue measures in 2026 and $100 million in 2027. A total of $172 million over the 2 years. However, they have been woefully short on details of what those revenue measures are. For example, Mr. Speaker, the Premier and Minister have revealed that financial services fees such as legal and accounting, fund annual filing fees, limited partnerships and corporate service provider fees will increase. But they have not told us what the new fees are going to be. The Minister says immigration fees and stamp duty on high-value real estate transfers will increase, but he hadn't told us what those increases will be, particularly the threshold for high-value real estate and the rate of duty to be applied on these transactions.
That was the Cayman Islands opposition MP for Georgetown East, Roy McTaggart. The government of St. Lucia says investor confidence has returned in full force, with EC $7.4 billion in tourism investments since 2021, driving record job creation, fiscal recovery, and economic expansion. Delivering a national address on Tuesday, Tourism Minister Dr. Ernest Hilaire credited the Pierre administration's deliberate post-pandemic strategy for restoring stability and investor trust.
So much of our economy in the post-COVID-19 world has been driven by the recovery of the tourism sector. St. Lucia has not only recovered, but now surpassed pre-COVID levels. We have modernized our legislative and incentives framework, providing greater impetus for economic growth. From 2021 to October 2025, total investment in the tourism sector reached $7.4 billion EC dollars, generating employment for 23,000 citizens. During this period, the accommodation sector accounted for approximately 80.7% of total investment, followed by land-based transportation at 20.8%.
That was St. Lucia's Tourism Minister, Dr. Ernest Hilaire. And Barbados is tearing down bureaucratic choke points and rebuilding how companies register, raise capital, and resolve customer disputes, anchored by its new Business Barbados Service Hub. In an interview on Tuesday, Minister of Energy and Business, Senator Lisa Cummings, says the initiative, which took effect on April 1, replaces a patchwork of outdated systems with a single modern service hub.
So effective April 1, Business Barbados was created. We onboarded the staff members that opted to go over no job losses, that's a mantra for the government, and then we began the process of looking to scale up. So we're still scaling up, and you've seen in the newspaper and in the press the advertisements for Chief Operations Officer, Chief Executive Officer, marketing teams, and so on. So that process is ongoing. New teams are going to be added to the existing teams to be able to make sure we can meet the capacity. We're migrating onto a new platform that allows us to have the kind of functionality that we need on the basis of the processes that we re-engineered.
She says this framework now formally separates the management of trademarks and patents from the company's registry functions.
So we created a back office, a middle office, a front office, a leadership team, and we separated out the work of companies from intellectual property. And so effective December 1, you will now have a brand new director of IP for the first time in Barbados, to go along with what you now have in Business Barbados, a director of companies. And that work will take place over the coming year, in the new year, as we continue to scale Business Barbados, but more importantly, to be able to respond to the legitimate concerns about how easy or not easy it is to do business in this country.
That was Barbados's Energy and Business Minister, Senator Lisa Cummings. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 6 advanced, 4 declined, and 12 traded firm. Today's winners are Grace Kennedy, First Citizens Group Financial Holdings, the West Indian Tobacco Company, and National Flour Mills, while leading the losers are Angostura Holdings, Calypso Macro Index Fund, JMMB Group, and Trinidad Cement. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All TNT Index advanced by 5.09 points to close at 1,354.92. The Composite Index advanced by 3.98 points to close at 939.84. The Cross-Listed Index advanced by 0.39 points to close at 69.36. The SME Index remained at 95.60. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
And see my granny and save her money under her mattress.
Exactly.
Okay.
Your grandmother house never burned down?
No, oh, you reached that, so. That was a one-off thing.
That could have happened to anybody. That's why you must put your money in a financial institution and protect it.
What if the bank crash?
Well, that's where JDIC comes in.
What you mean?
JDIC is a financial safety net which provides coverage for your money in case your financial institution fails.
Explain that to me.
All right. Because of the JDIC deposit insurance scheme, once you put your money into a financial institution like a bank or building society, you can get coverage of up to a maximum of $1.2 million per deposit of your financial institution if it should fail. And for even more information, you can visit their new website at www.jdic.org, and you can follow the social media platforms for the latest information.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
In international news, Citigroup has received a final approval from Russian President Vladimir Putin to sell its local subsidiary AO City Bank to Renaissance Capital, marking a major milestone in the U.S. lender's withdrawal from Russia. Citi confirmed the sign-off from the Kremlin on Wednesday, saying it's now moving expeditiously to complete final regulatory steps in both Moscow and Washington. The bank's stock rose as much as 2.6%, trading above US $102, extending its 47% gain for 2025. This divestment forms part of CEO Jane Fraser's sweeping overhaul, which has already seen Citi exit 9 markets and pursue sales in Poland, Korea, and China. The bank says it ended almost all Russian institutional services by March 2023, though it still has US $11.7 billion in client exposure, mostly trapped corporate dividends. And while banks are tightening their global footprints, airlines are navigating political turbulence of another kind: the U.S. government shutdown. Delta Airlines expects a strong fourth quarter despite flight disruptions tied to the ongoing U.S. federal government shutdown. CEO Ed Bastian says that while the industry faces significant costs from air traffic control absences, Delta's profits won't be wiped out. Over the past week, U.S. carriers endured a wave of cancellations as roughly 13,000 air traffic controllers and 50,000 TSA agents continued working without pay, stretching the system thin. Delta says its operations recovered by midweek after weather and staffing snarls in Atlanta and other hubs. Cancellations sharply declined Wednesday as the House of Representatives prepared to vote on ending the shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. From air travel to high-speed internet, Portugal is taking connectivity to another level with billions in digital investment. Portugal's telecom operators will invest 4.2 billion euros, nearly US $4.9 billion, over the next 5 years to expand 5G networks, satellites, and fiber optic coverage, according to the Infrastructure Ministry. The plan involves Altice, NOS, and Vodafone, which control over 90% of the market, and will extend connectivity to roads, ports, and rural zones. It follows Microsoft's US $10 billion AI infrastructure project at the START campus data center in Sines, powered by renewable energy. Infrastructure Minister Miguel Pinto Luz calls it the largest tech investment in Portugal's history, positioning the country's Atlantic coast as a major hub for subsea cables linking Europe, Africa, and the Americas. And finally, one of the world's biggest chip makers is cooling expectations for a $1 billion project in Latin America. NVIDIA has denied reports it plans to invest US $1 billion in Mexico's northern state of Nuevo León, hours after Governor Samuel Garcia claimed the company would build a green AI data center there. In a recent statement, NVIDIA said it has no financial investment plans in the state, stressing that its regional efforts focus instead on research and talent development. Governor Garcia made the announcement in a social media video flanked by purported NVIDIA representatives whose identities remain unclear. Neither the company nor the state government has offered clarification. Nuevo León has recently attracted major investors, including Tesla and Foxconn, under Mexico's broader nearshoring push, though this project appears premature. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of
If it were not for the Jamaica Stock Exchange listing, Phosphate Company Limited would not be where it's at today. I called them, they listened to my concerns and my fears, and they gave me the answers. All the fears I had about banks, about losing control, you are having them. And I tell you, they were dissipated when I spoke to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. This is one of the best decisions I have ever made in business. If you want to change the trajectory of your business and to grow, make that call today to the Jamaica Stock Exchange. You will be glad you did.
And now to recap our top stories. In the local news, government approves $400 million withdrawal for bauxite communities. Opposition presses for accountability. On the regional front, opposition warns Cayman budget will burden businesses with higher fees and record debt. And internationally, Citigroup secures Kremlin approval to sell Russian subsidiary to Renaissance Capital. Those were the stories making today's CBX Evening News. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Rochelle Moncrief. Thanks for watching CBX, your region, your business, your source.
Burgess, CEO of Sugar Lifestyle. You're watching CBX, your region,